Today is May 19th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we are going to be reading from the core text a little bit more out of How It Works, pages 69 through 70. And out of the personal stories, we are going to begin a new story, story 17 from They Stopped in Time, Window of Opportunity, pages 421 and 422. And finally, out of the 12 and 12, we're going to continue our journey through tradition number 4 by reading the second half of page 146. So with all that, my friends, hope you all are doing well this morning. Life is good over here. I've got a cup of coffee here, grit on my face, because I've got this little, all right, you all probably knew I was a dork, but this is a whole new level. But I've got this little Game Boy coffee mug that I got at Hobby Lobby, and as soon as you put some coffee in there, the heat changes the blank screen of the Game Boy into a picture of Super Mario Land. So yeah, there you go. As I said, a whole new level right there. Anyways, let's get to the good stuff. All right, my friends. So out of the Big Book, today we're talking about sex. So now that I've got your attention, we've been talking about steps 3 and step 4, very practical solutions to kind of dig at the root of some of our issues. And yesterday we started talking about a lot of the different types of issues we might have regarding selfishness. And now we're on to the topic of sex. So again, we're on page 69. We're going to be reading 69 and 70. We reviewed our own conduct over the past. Where have we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? What could we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. In this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. We subjected each relation to this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideals and help us to live up to them. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed. Whatever our ideals turn out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in doing so. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it. God alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel with persons is often desirable, but we let God be the faithful judge. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice. Suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean that we are going to get drunk? Some people tell us so. But this is only a half-truth. It depends on us and on our motives. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe that we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson. If we're not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we're quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are facts of our own experience. To sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, and for the strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge when to yield would mean heartache. If we have been thorough about our personal inventory, we've written down a lot. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We've begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We've begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. We have listed the people that we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out the past if we can. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope that you're convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from Him. If you already made a decision and an inventory of your grosser handicaps, you've made a good beginning. That being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself. So guys, I apologize there. I said we were reading 69 and 70. We were also reading 71 there, finishing off How It Works. Great stuff. Can't wait to come back to this in a second. Next up, we are reading the story number 17 for those who stopped in time. This is called Window of Opportunity. This young alcoholic stepped out of a second-story window and into AA. And again, we're reading 421 and 422. I got sober when I was still in college. Once outside of a meeting, I overheard a conversation between another sober student and a woman who lived in town where I went to school. She was explaining why so many local residents disliked the students. She described the common perception of students as arrogant and self-centered, and went on to tell the following story. I'm a nurse, and I work in the emergency room. 2 years ago, a student was brought in my ambulance in the middle of the night. He'd gotten drunk, walked through a second-story window, and fallen 20 feet head first in a concrete window well. He was brought in covered with blood. His head had swollen to the size of a watermelon. He kept swearing at the nurses and doctors, telling them to keep their hands off of him and threatening to sue them. He was, without a doubt, the single most obnoxious person I ever met. At that, I interrupted her. That was me, I said. That was my last drunk. I had walked through that window when I was 19 years old. How had I gotten there? I'd always been a good kid growing up, the kind of son other mothers loved. I was at the top of my classes academically and had been in almost no trouble for the first 17 years of my life. I would like to say that was because of my well-developed moral fiber, but in fact, much of it was as a result of fear. My earliest memories included threats by my parents to throw me out onto the street for the slightest acts of disobedience. The thought of being forced to live on the street is pretty terrifying for a 6-year-old. Those threats, coupled with a fair amount of physical punishment, kept me frightened and obedient. As I grew older, however, I made a plan. I'd be dutiful until I graduated from school. Then I would escape to college, secure my economic future, and never go home again. Just after my 18th birthday, I left for college. I was, I thought, finally free. I was in for a rude awakening. Like many alcoholics, I spent much of my life feeling different, as though I didn't quite fit in. I covered those feelings and my low self-esteem by being one of the smartest people in any group, if not the smartest. Additionally, I became a performer in crowds, always ready with a quick joke to point out the humor in any situation. I managed to bring a great deal of laughter into my life. I went to a college filled with people who had also spent their entire lives at or near the top of their academic classes. Suddenly, I was no longer special. To make matters worse, many of them had what I had only dreamed of: money. My family was strictly working class, struggling to get by on what my father earned. Money had always been a big issue, and I equated it with security, prestige, and worth. My father was fond of saying that the sole purpose of life is to make money. I had classmates whose names were household words that connoted wealth. I was ashamed of my family and ashamed of myself. My shaky confidence crumbled. I was terrified of being found out. I knew that if others discovered who I really was, they wouldn't like me, and I'd be left alone, worthless and alone. All right, some interesting stuff here today, guys. We will continue this story tomorrow. And finally, we are on tradition number 4 out of the 12 and 12, which is each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. We're going to be finishing off page 146 today. When AA's traditions were first published in 1946, we become sure that an AA group could stand almost any amount of battering. We saw that the group, exactly like the individual, must eventually conform to whatever tested principles would guarantee survival. We had discovered that there was a perfect safety in the process of trial and error. So confident in this had we become that the original statement of AA tradition carried this significant sentence. Any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group, provided that as a group, they have no other affiliation. And going back to the big book real fast, I just wanted to talk about something from yesterday. I love the big book because for me, it gives me practical advice for pretty much every situation. A lot of times I operated out of fear. I know we were just talking about that in the personal stories. And I oftentimes would base my happiness on what other people felt about me. I am a people pleaser to this day. But I would really put my identity in what others thought. So when somebody was mean or something to me, not only did it make me resent them, it made me resent myself. So going back to what we read yesterday, of all things, talking about the sick man's prayer, I'd like to just return to that just for a second. This is on page 67. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, "This is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him?" So right there, that little prayer, like say if somebody offends me, hey, they're human too. They're sick too. We're all sick. Here's an uplifting thought for you. We're all sick, right? In the sense that none of us are perfect. How can I be helpful to him? So immediately it's not, oh, this is a sick man and I'm better. No. How can I be helpful to him? So I'm not thinking about me here, at least at this part. I'm thinking about how I can help this person that might have offended me in some way. So that gets me off of me instantly. Okay, can I pray for this person? Can I do a good deed for this person? Whatever it might be. And sometimes the most helpful thing we could do is keep our distance. Maybe they don't like us for whatever reason. And establish that healthy boundary that's good for both of us. And then the next line, God save me from being angry. That's where we start dealing with our own interpretation. God, please save me from this. It doesn't say, God, give me the willpower to do it myself. God, please save me from being angry. I'm thankful that it's not up to me. I can just ask God and trust that He's going to do it. And then once again, we've seen this many times in the big book. Thy will be done. But I'll be honest with you all, my friends. Sometimes my biggest resentment is me. So I just look at it again. Rob is a sick man. How can I help myself? For me, what does the big book tell me to do? God, save me from being angry at myself. I'm just a human being. I'm going to mess up sometimes. What can I learn from this? How can I press on to do your will? And once again, your will be done today. I just love that. Love that. To me, that's very practical. And I don't do that enough. I need to look at that more and practice that more. Because again, even years into sobriety, one day at a time, I can still be my own worst enemy. It's still there sometimes. It's gotten much better, and I really do claim spiritual progress, but I want to continue to grow in that area of my life. And then going back to the reading today out of the core text, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. Now on page 70, suppose we fall short on the chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean we're going to get drunk? So I know they're talking about sex here, but this could apply to any problem, right? Suppose we do something that we used to do while we were drinking. Something selfish or self-centered that we used to do. Does this mean that we're going to get drunk? Well, I think this paragraph's getting at the heart of the issue. It says, some people tell us so, but this is only a half-truth. It depends on us and our motives. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe that we will be forgiven and have learned our lesson. It's all about the heart. I've got to examine the heart. Am I really sorry for this? Or am I sorry that I got caught? Am I going to continue to do this wrong thing over and over and not care? Because if I do, as it says right here, I'm going to drink again. And if I drink, all bets are off. But if this mistake that I've made leads me to confess and to learn from the experience and to try to turn the other way, then these mistakes are used for something good. And most likely, I will not drink, at least today, by trying to do the right thing and trying to do His will. Once again, this is very practical for me, and I love it. It's all about the heart here. We earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, and for the strength to do the right thing. So, my friends, let's go ahead and try to do the right thing today. As always, I don't speak on behalf of AA or NA or Al-Anon or any other sect or denomination. I am just a dude, just a friend in recovery. And as you heard earlier in the episode, I'm just a dork. But I'm happy and I'm grateful to be sober today. And if you are sober, my friends, you are a miracle. And I'm sure that those who love you are very proud of you. I hope you have a great day today. And if we were given another set of 24 hours, I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.